the vast majority of my learning was done
Yeah.
not while I was working. It was while I was sitting down. It was while I was driving with like my dad or whatever journeyman is where I'd ask questions.
Yeah.
And it was just saying the apprenticeship program nowadays is robbed of that opportunity because people are just
Yeah.
on their phones during breaks.
Depending on the person and the individual and how inquisitive. I learned a lot about plumbing and learned a lot about electrical work, even though those weren't my disciplines. But and also what you were doing that was making it easier for them or harder for them.
PeopleBuilt is bringing a light to the tradespeople in the industry who are often forgotten and consistently taken for granted. Construction industry matters. It's been fascinating now to be able to have the platform to meet the men and women who work in our construction industry. Their concerns matter. Welcome to the PeopleBuilt podcast. Good day and welcome back to the PeopleBuilt podcast. Today I'm joined by Dave Hooge, and we are going to be talking about construction, his different path with working with Stepper, with Jayman, some board work at New Home Warranty, and then his new adventure with Ronmore and starting a new home building company, talking about the different roles that make us successful and his experience in watching trades and supervisors and managers come up and learn their different roles as leaders. Dave, thanks so much for joining me.
Happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Awesome. So your journey started 30 some years ago at Stepper? Or
Well, I was started with Stepper in 97, November 17th, 1997. Ironically, I started November 17th with Ronmore actually just this year, so as well. But I started in the industry in the 80s as a kid. My brother was a framer. He's quite a bit older than me, 17 years older than me. And he was a lifelong framer. And I had the opportunity to go and clean his job sites and pull nails and all of that. So that's how I got into the industry. And we cribbed our own basements and we framed them as well.
Yeah.
And then, so we could only blame ourselves for they're out of square. And so I did that through high school, sort of just as a summer job or after school kind of thing, amongst other things. And then my dad was a school teacher and a principal. In fact, there's a school in Maple Ridge called Harry Hooge Elementary that's named after him. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But I came out of high school and I remember it was kind of a conversation between the three of us. I'd been considering being a teacher. And my brother said, well, if you go to, university and be a teacher, fine, you'll start to get paid in 4 years. He said, if you come to work for me, I'll pay you on Friday. And I really enjoyed my time framing. So I ended up choosing to be a framer at the time. But it wasn't long into it where I realized I didn't necessarily want to be a career framer. I really wanted to be in the business of home building.
What were kind of some of the things you liked about framing? And what was the signal that you just said, no, I'd rather be in the business side of this?
Well, I mean, framing was just it was the great way to make some money and be outside and be active and be fit and use your athleticism as you worked, if you know what I mean, use your body to work. So I enjoyed that. I could see that he was so being that he's that much older than me, I could see his knees were bad and his ankles were bad and my ankles were bad from sports. And so I just thought maybe there's not a long longevity to it in terms of my physical body. And even at pouring rain out there, one big turning point was where it was pouring rain, as it often did, because we're in Vancouver, Lower Mainland. And we're on what's called a reverse walkout. So the hill at the back and it comes down and at the front, lower. And I'm stripping a foundation. It's about 4-foot foundation. I'm stripping it, and there's water, probably 2 feet of water. And as I'm pulling, it releases, and I fall back. And at 8:30 in the morning, I went completely submerged underwater in my rain gear. And my brother Al starts laughing at me. Of course, everybody's laughing. It's funny, ha ha. And I got up and go, okay, this is cool, but I'm not doing this the rest of my life. I like the idea of home building, and I'm gonna pursue the business side of it over time. I didn't know quite how I was going to do that at the time, but I said, you know what, I could see some successful smaller builders, which is common in the Lower Mainland, in and around our friendship group and our family's friendship groups. And I said, okay, I want to be like one of those guys, a small contractor or whatever it is, and work my way into the contracting business.
And I think about too, just even like the start of your journey then, there's not a lot of people who have experience in cribbing and framing. And for people who don't know about like the construction industry, is they're so dependent on each other.
Yeah.
Right. And like and so critical to the overall function of a job. If it gets cribbed poorly, it's tough for the
Yeah,
framer. If the framer can't frame it level, plumb, and square, it's tough for every single trade who comes after.
for sure.
Then to be able to see that integration early on
Yeah.
about the impact of, if you crib it out of square or level, right, how difficult it is for the framing side. And I imagine just like really setting you up for the future to understand how integrated the trades are together.
Yeah, very much. Well, when you're on the job site as a framer, you see other trades come and go, so you get a feel for timing and the workflow to a point. And then, so Al also had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit and would build spec homes from time to time that he would go all the way through the process with.
Yeah.
And so he and I would do the finishing carpentry as well, or whatever we could do to save a little bit of money.
Yeah.
So that was a good way to sort of see the way through. But for sure, when we were doing finishing carpentry and we didn't do a good job of framing, well, you don't got anyone to blame but yourself, right? For out of square corners and all that kind of thing.
Because I know, like, from my experience, I'm amazed at how, like, being able to see the different perspectives that some builders take, or like some of our clients take with trying to build teamwork. And some of them take a very much an approach of like, we will just back charge people, right? Like the best way to approach mistakes is to just charge them for an error.
Right.
And then other people try to build camaraderie and kind of build some relationships on job sites to help showcase why, like, whatever we do, let's say as plumbers, right? I'm trying to think like, of easy ones. Like if we cut into a joist that's bearing, tell the framer before we run our stuff through it.
Right.
Earlier on. And then really early on, because we'd worked with Albie at the time, and like Tom Morrow took a very hands-on approach to the construction process. So I learned that from my dad.
Okay.
And so it was very much early on to get to know the framers, the sheet metal guys, and the electricians. So we all knew each other, and we knew the impact. If we made a mistake, and the electricians would tag wires and tag lines and call us.
Yeah.
And then to see the different approach later on with like other clients who we didn't know the trades, they were different every time. We didn't have their phone numbers, and everything ran through the builder. And seeing almost like a great deal of inefficiency is what it felt like.
Yeah,
we didn't have that direct path of communication, that direct camaraderie.
Yeah, good point. And then it becomes a blame game often, right? And finger pointing at whichever trade and cut my wire and all of that stuff, and people just goes, Anyways, that easily becomes non-collaborative. Your word around collaborative is critical. One of the questions that you alluded to was, and I hope I'm not jumping ahead, was how do trade partners and builders have a good relationship? How does that work, right? And collaboration was the word that came to mind. Yes, you build a friendship, right? You build your collaborative friendship, which is valuable. Like relationship is so critical, whether it's no matter what part of business you're dealing in. Yeah. And creating a space, being respectful of the people that are behind you, creating a space for them to be successful when they come onto the job behind you, allows for a smoother process and way more enjoyable build, and usually better quality at the end.
Well, and that's what I see as well. And I find, especially as I think when you go from like that small builder perspective, like building a couple specs on the side, right? You're in touch with absolutely every facet of the build, right? There's not really a single detail that you're not involved in. And then to take that from, a couple specs a year into, you're now in charge of hundreds of houses.
Yeah.
What is the change in what you look for in a trade partner? Because I feel like it's different at both stages, right? From the small once-off build up to, your mechanical trade or the framers that you're using, or electricians or finishing carpenters. Like, is it different in what you're looking for?
Yeah, good question. Okay, so I think I'll go back to the relationship thing, but it's how you establish and manage the relationship that changes. So, for example, when we were framing houses, we'd always go to the coffee shop in the morning for breakfast, and we'd sit there, and the plumber would be sitting there, electrician would be sitting. Everybody's in the same coffee shop. It was just that way in our town. And so that's where you had your discussions around what was going on. So it was all about relationship, but it was just you're sitting there talking, actually having a coffee together, right? So that was it.
Like, so it's funny you mentioned that. Like, that is very akin to how I grew up in the trade.
Yeah.
We still go for beers at once every couple months.
Yeah.
With it'd be the site supervisor from like 25 years ago, the couple of framers and like deck builders from like 25 years ago, and another one of the supervisors, and I did a ton of learning. Everything I know about the structure of a house, I learned from those guys. And I've noticed this within my own company is a ton of learning I did was sitting on the job site talking to people.
Yeah.
Right? Sitting at a restaurant talking to people.
Yeah.
And I've tried to implement that within my own company.
Interesting.
And I couldn't understand why it wasn't gaining traction. And then finally, a couple of my like lead journeymen, they just came to me and said, John, like we don't sit together. We all take breaks apart, and people are just on their phones. So like, whatever you think is happening it doesn't happen anymore. And
Interesting.
It was really like a mind blowing
Hmm.
experience for me because man, like the vast majority of my learning was done not while I was working. It was while I was sitting down. It was while I was driving with like my dad or whatever journeyman is where I'd ask questions.
Yeah.
And it was just saying the apprenticeship program nowadays is robbed of that opportunity because people are just on their phones during breaks.
Depending on the person and individual and how inquisitive. Like someone like yourself, you're obviously very talkative. You'd probably still be asking the questions, right?
Oh, yeah.
And but not everybody is naturally like that.
Yep.
But you're right. That was I learned a lot about plumbing. I learned a lot about electrical work, even though those weren't my disciplines. But and also what you were doing that was making it easier for them or harder for them. But then as you get into a bigger, larger company, well, you still got to establish a relationship and maintain a relationship, which is different because now you got a builder that's scheduling usually in the cloud and everybody hopefully shows up when they're supposed to. So how do you do that relationship thing? It's different. Part of it is probably behind the scenes where you're being respectful of them and hoping that you want them to make money on your job site so they show up. We talked about that a little earlier. And being disciplined and doing what you said you're going to do in terms of creating a space for your trade partners to show up and be successful, right? And vice versa. That's part of it. The other part of it, there's a lot of social activity that happens when the companies get bigger because there's money to do so, whether it's Christmas parties or build association events or whatever it is. So there's those things that over the years, being at a larger company, personally, I feel like I built some of my best friendships through the industry over the years, for sure, that continue to stand today and be around today. Yeah.
And then
friendships equals, not friendships that you take advantage of either way. Friendships that build, in the end, you build respect, and you want each other to be successful.
But I think that's a good point, because then if you have a friendship, I think the essence of friendship is trust.
Yeah.
Right. And where trust matters the most is when times are difficult. Right?
Yeah.
When like the housing market in Calgary, as of today, we're December 2nd, right? It's in a slump on a year-over-year basis.
Yeah.
It's down quite a bit.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like what we see from the trade side is every builder is trying to scramble right now to try to figure out where is the market now? Where's the market on trade pricing? Where's the price on, or where's on sales? And as my company's a little bit newer to that industry at that size, it's interesting to try to have the conversations with people who I trust and who I feel like trust me.
Yeah.
Versus the clients who don't.
Yeah.
And it's going, well, like, how much money is enough to make? Like, how do we lead if the market's coming down? How much pressure do we put? Like, where do we apply that pressure? How do we communicate that to our vendors? And it's very interesting to go through the bigger picture conversations versus when the company was much, much smaller and I was the guy doing the work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and sometimes those, call it microclimates of where things aren't going well. I mean, relatively speaking, in terms of Canada, Alberta's doing pretty well. And then you mentioned the vendor, from a vendor perspective, which come from all over North America, product that you're getting for your stuff specifically, they're not seeing the downturn everywhere. So it's not always as transferable. So this is what we're feeling here, but they're still getting their margins wherever they need to be getting. So that's a piece that comes into play, I think. But you'll also find, I'm sure you'll find a trade partner a builder partner that's going to come and say, look, we need 10% off, or 5%. That's the number.
Yeah.
Rather than, what do you think we can do to reduce our costs? There's some value engineering that we can do as collaboratively to understand how we can still get the same product or similar and reduce the actual costs. And then also, how can you contribute your margin, right? Because we're contributing margin to the builders. And Calgary's, well, all markets, I guess, but Calgary specifically is notorious for the give and take parts of the cycle, 5 to 7 years. You're taking some and you're giving some. So I think an organization like yours or any of ours, we need to be planning for that next downturn so that you can you can be prepared. I mean, it's an opportunity for you to move some of your fixed costs, like your people that aren't necessarily the ones that you want around. But it's also time to invest in those people that you want to keep around, even though you probably shouldn't. You can't afford them. But you see what's coming down the pipe. We're counting on another good cycle. You've got a vision for your company that's got some growth in it. I think it's unique for each organization and how they handle those decisions.
Because you'd have seen a couple kind of like boom bust cycles, for lack of a better word. Because I guess, do you remember kind of what was your role within Stepper kind of 2005, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like that? Because there's this window of like, as good as it's ever been in Alberta, as far as I'm aware, was 2005, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
And then the bottom fell out of the market. And then from my perspective, we just went through a 16-year recession.
Well, 16-year recession, I guess. I mean, there's ups and downs, but I mean, my role was president general manager at Stepper at the time.
Yeah.
But what was my role? I mean, obviously my role was to execute on our vision and our plan, recognizing. So in that role, I reported to the board of directors, which was the Stepper family.
Yeah.
Right. And specifically with Harry Stepper as the board chair. And then they had some other advisory members as well. But it was good collaboration with that family and having a shared vision so that you could make decisions that were relevant and allowed your company to still be successful one way or the other. Success maybe had been different in 2008. Success was like getting through the year end. I remember that hit in about September, October of 2008. I just promoted a new sales manager, and I think his first day was September, and he thought it was his fault that he wasn't selling any houses. Yeah. But understanding what the big picture was, and being conservative, making tough decisions, but also not losing sight of your overall goals as a company.
Do you remember how did you communicate that with your staff? Right, like as the market, like, that was a huge downturn. Right?
Yeah,
it was North America wide.
Yeah.
How did you try to communicate that down the chain? Like, you got your new guy who gets promoted, gets promoted to this role. He thinks it's his fault. How do you communicate that to people?
I think, if I remember correctly, because that's a long time ago now, 17 years. It was first as the management team or senior executive team, in addition to the board, having the same message. So we got to be on the same page so that we're not having infighting at the senior leadership level.
Yeah.
So there's some continuity. That's important. And then communicating clearly what's going on. Like at that time, I think what we did is we gave people an option for reduced salary or taking extra time off, like taking a Friday off. So your salary is reduced, but you're also getting some time back.
Yeah.
So we did things like that. And so it was just being very open. We had monthly corporate meetings, which we always did at Stepper at that time, where we had all the staff in, and we would just talk about what was going on. It was very clear. And of course, we had to do some layoffs and make some tough decisions, but we tried to treat people well and communicate the reasoning for it. At that time, it wasn't hard to communicate the reasoning for it. It was all over all the media, right?
Yep.
But I think it's important and not always easy to have alignment with your senior leadership team so that your staff, even though they're unsettled because it's a challenge, they at least believe that the leaders are taking the organization in the right direction.
Have you always been a good communicator? Like, does that come naturally to have, like, those are tough meetings to have and agendas to build? Like, did you take training for that, or is that just something you've got good at over time?
Well, through the years, probably some training, some courses and whatnot, and even PHBI has communications courses. But I think it's a skill set that I had in terms of the ability to communicate and the desire to communicate, even though I don't always like to, right? It's easy just to shut your door and not have to face the music. But no, I think that's a skill set that I've had, but that I've had to hone over the years and pay more attention to and pay more respect to the fact that it's important.
I'll definitely say, I think it seems as though, like, as anybody builds their career up from like field level work to almost whatever position is, you just need to get better and better at delivering uncomfortable news. Yeah. Right? Like, as a supervisor, it's no different trying to deal with problems.
Yeah.
Right? They're just different problems, potentially smaller and less people. And as you manage managers, and as you manage managers of managers, and it's just more and more communication.
Yeah.
Which is very, very different for people who are used to just doing things in the field and being successful.
Yeah. definitely being comfortable with communicating both the good and bad news, right? And tempering it in a way that takes into account your audience. Because, I mean, as you know, some of your team handles bad news well, and some doesn't. Some don't, right? And so even with good news,
Yep.
so you got to sort of read the room.
That's interesting. Like, and so, like, and I would call that like emotional intelligence, right? Like EQ. Can you walk into a room and kind of know who you're talking to and
Yeah.
how to deliver that right message?
Yeah.
Like, do you think, like, how much has that led to your success? Because and I would say your career is successful. If you started as a framer in the Lower Mainland and you've now operated a few different larger companies,
Mm-hmm.
like how much of that just comes back down to being able to have tough conversations and know your audience?
Great question. um, I think the knowing the audience piece is the big one. I think the knowing the communication. I don't think I've always done that great a job in it, as we've talked about. It's come better and better over the years, and also braver to talk to say it like it is. But reading the room and being able to establish rapport with somebody so that you can build trust. I think that's a big piece. So you can actually, go to the heart of the matter and speak about it rather than skirt around the bushes. People know when you're not necessarily being straightforward with them, and not everybody wants that, and that's the reading of the room part. But I think the reading of the room is really important, and because you can establish relationships, and you're not going to establish healthy relationships with everybody. And I've experienced that certainly where you're just not in a working relationship that is productive, and that's going to be mutually productive.
What kind of signals do you get for that? Because I know, like, I have a belief.
Someone yells at you.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it's lack of communication. It goes quiet. It just doesn't. You get a sense that there's tension there for some reason because you are not the same. You're not the type of people that work together well. That's just the reality. I mean, you got good people that work for you, I'm sure, over the years that just weren't the right fit, but they're good plumbers or they're good whatever they are, but it just wasn't the right fit. I've certainly had that many times, and having the ability to end that relationship for both parties is important.
That's a good perspective, actually. It's very precise that somebody who is argumentative, like yelling, or completely withdraws.
Yeah.
Probably a good signal that that's not a long-term fit.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure it is.
So when you look at some of the younger leaders, right? So because Stepper would have undergone a great deal of growth under your leadership, and then with a slowdown, and the same thing for Jayman. Like, when you look at who gets hired in the supervisory roles in our industry, what makes a supervisor successful? What kind of signals do you get that they're probably not going to be successful?
Well, we're notorious in our industry when it gets busy and booms that we hire people above their capabilities, first of all, because they're doers. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Because they're doers and they're really good at their basics of their job, but they're not necessarily good at managers. And then sometimes we don't do a good job of training them to be good managers as well. That happens a lot, actually, in our industry.
Have you experienced any good training? Have you seen effective training when it comes to supervisors in the new home, like Calgary construction industry, and who's done it well?
Have I seen it? Well, I've experienced it. I think I experienced it through Harry Stepper, actually, just because I started with him as a site soup in '97, and that, it wasn't that he was do this. It was that he was always there as a mentor to sort of direct next steps and give advice and correct you when you're wrong. And that just, and also point out the really important pieces. And he did that when he promoted me into manager and president role too. It's like, I remember one time, and it was November of probably 2006 or 2008, one of those crazy years. And we were a home builder that built around 200 homes a year, 200 to 300. That was where we wanted to stay. So growth for us wasn't going from 200 to 400 sometime. It was about doing more with 200 homes, being more efficient. However, in 2006, I'm pretty sure it was November, Harry had been out of town and came back, and I was so proud to tell him we had 55 sales. And he goes, "You idiot." I don't think he used those words. But he said, "Why? What makes you think we can sell 55 homes when we're a 200 home builder?" It was about capacity. Industry was all talking about capacity. And so that was just a really great, really, the whole process of walking through that. I mean, it's obvious now. You probably all know about capacity. I'm sure it's a big thing for you. But that was he just kind of walked me through it. It wasn't like we talked about it in advance before. We probably did. But it was just a good reminder, slap in the back of the head to say, look, we got it, man. How are you going to get these homes out to the field? We're going to have the ability to produce the plans to get them out in a reasonable amount of time. So the downstream effect of that is longer build times and slower turns and significant impact on our profitability as a company.
Did you take that, and you've taken that lesson with you?
Oh yeah,
now?
Yeah, very much, yeah. And it goes beyond that. If I sell 55 homes in a month repeatedly, how many homes are our site soups going to have in the field? Way too many. And then they lose their confidence, and we have bad quality, and we're being inefficient on our job sites. So it was a waterfall effect. It was a really good lesson actually at that time, going into 2008 when we wished we could sell 55 homes.
Well, and what I hear too is the consistency in leadership, and like somebody who is in tune with what is going on in the business. Right? I feel like it's not always a common leadership quality, but for Harry to come back, right, from a holiday, like get the news, hey, 55 houses, and immediately it is like, no, this is inconsistent with our vision and our plan. Like that is amazing leadership.
Yeah.
Because I think too often leaders are afraid to have the hard conversations, because it's like, how do you take a guy who's clearly very excited about selling the most houses we've ever sold, right? And the guy's like, "What are you doing?
Yeah,
this is not what we
too
do.
many.
Too many."
Yeah,
right. And just like, I think that's a great reminder to, like, for anybody who's in a leadership role, is like to anchor your vision for yourself. So when you hear stuff that's inconsistent, to be able to like jump on it right away. Because I think that conversation gets harder and harder to have the longer it goes, right?
Yeah.
Versus just going, no, like that's not what we do. As opposed to, waiting till it's in design and you're having delays, or waiting till it's in excavation, you're having delays, or waiting till the very, very end and then coming in, where I find a lot of leaders and they go, "You should have done this."
Yeah.
And it's basically a year too late.
It's a year too late. So having had that conversation, then it was around, okay, how do we strategize to move through this? So it was a learning lesson that way as well, to manage this capacity and manage customers' expectations, because now we're selling all these homes and they think it's going to be done in a certain amount of time, and it's just not. And not only did we do that, but many builders did that at that time.
Yeah.
I remember Alan Clausen talking about capacity, and I think he was, who knows what he was doing. Maybe he was president at the time, but he was talking about builders overselling their capacity. So it was a very hot topic, and it's a top. And for our trade base, because all of a sudden now, what are you supposed to do? We usually, you're counting on 20 plans a month, and well, here's 50. John, make sure you make the time, make our dates.
Yeah, and if you don't hit your date, we'll send you it's a $500 back charge.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's an industry thing.
It is an industry thing. And I find that is sometimes, especially at the field level, and it's trying to communicate that with our staff, especially younger people who are not aware of the cyclicality. And like there's the cyclicality over years, but there's also like cyclicality over weeks, right?
Yeah.
Whereas and to help our staff understand, like there's this mentality of like a 9-to-5 job, and that just doesn't exist in in the new home construction industry.
Right.
That's not a thing.
Right.
Hey, like some weeks we have, let's say, 20 rough-ins, and a week and a half later we have 8.
Yeah. Right.
How are you supposed to staff for that? I've still not figured out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it goes into just having the conversations with our staff. And then the challenge, I think, from the manager level is it's always that fear that if you don't have work for the guy, that he's going to quit and go somewhere else because there's work that week.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, they're planning a year at a time. And within the trade level, you're oftentimes planning like days at a time.
Yeah.
What's coming up. And there is this like real visceral fear that if you don't have work for your guys, that they're just going to leave.
Of course. And then you get 20 the next week and you don't have them.
But then you don't have them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think I love the conversation around capacity. And I think the hardest part for anybody really to anchor is how out of control all of us are when it comes to build. Like it is so dependent on the sale of a house. And if there's selling houses, we're all busy.
Yeah.
And if you're not selling houses, everyone's kind of looking around going,
of course. Yeah.
But what are we supposed to do?
It's kind of what, I don't know, we're in that market right now. It's definitely slower, as you pointed out, year over year, but there's still a market out there. It's how willing are we to get to the point where that we're at the pricing that the market will start to absorb again. And so I think there's a market out there right now, but it is definitely cyclical, and that makes sense when you say a weekly cyclical for a trade base.
It's, I think that's one area that I know on the emotional intelligence side is trying to like think critically and really seeing like what is the essence of some of the problems that we have in our industry. It's like for me, it's recognizing that the vast majority of people struggle managing money. It's not a tradesperson thing. It's just people suck at managing money in general. Most people live paycheck to paycheck, almost regardless of their income.
Right.
And then so and I grew up working an hourly job. If I worked, I got paid. And if I didn't work, I didn't get paid.
Right.
And to me, that made tons of sense.
Right.
It wasn't until like the company was large and I started taking a salary that my income was consistent, whether I took a vacation or not. I still got a check.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking in that perspective of like when winter comes and guys can't work because it's -30 and they miss 3 days of work. Well, on a biweekly pay period, that's 30% of their paycheck.
It's huge.
Right. When the cycle goes up and down, right, over 2 or 3 weeks, right, that their paychecks have the potential of fluctuating 30 to 50%.
Yeah.
And then really having to, and I haven't mastered this by any stretch. I don't even know if I've scratched the surface. I'm trying to help educate our field staff on the importance and critical nature of saving money because we just don't know what's coming up next week and we have no control.
Yeah.
And then my assessment as well is I don't think I've seen that any one home builder is better than anybody else at like the even flow mentality. It is a noble cause and I appreciate it and try to make an effort at it. But I haven't seen really any builder who's really been able to crack this like sales versus starts versus construction
right
at a level that makes a big difference for the guy in the field.
Yeah. I mean, I've certainly, even flow has been talked about forever and ever. The previous group that I was with, we had the best handle on it in terms of the releases and getting them out to the field, in both their divisions. It was a real top priority. And I think they were doing a really good job, even to the point of distributing it to trades evenly, not just out to the field, but to the trades. But it is a challenge. It's a challenge. And you got to be willing to supplement with spec product or whatever to try and hit that even flow number consistently. But so I think that's it's a noble pursuit, but a real challenge.
It's a challenge. And I think that it excites me when people are trying.
Yeah.
If we're at least trying, we have a much higher likelihood of succeeding. If we're not trying at all, there's no chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and I think really understanding it's not like what a difference it does make at the field level in that consistency. Because speaking with more and more, and we've done a couple episodes with staff and just talk about like financial challenges that they experience. And in the construction industry, it's sales based. And in the service industry, or the residential side, it's almost weather based. And it's taken me a few years to understand this, but even with our social media company.
With weather-based?
Weather-based. So, if the temperature's 5 degrees outside, the air conditioner's not running, and neither's the
I see. Yeah.
And if it's not running, it doesn't break.
Right.
And so you watch these huge cycles in like people's keyword searches on Google, right?
Oh.
It's like, when do people search for plumber, right? Or furnace repair, right? And it's like -20 and below, it is like hugely busy.
Yeah.
Right? +25 and above, hugely busy. Right?
Okay.
Anywhere between, 14 degrees on the positive and probably -5 on.
Yeah. Nothing.
Just nothing.
Installs. Yeah.
And it's fascinating to see just how inconsistent work is to try to structure that. Right.
Well, so it's a good point then. The whole thing around managing. It's the same thing we have to tell our salespeople. Because salespeople are boom and bust. It's all paid on commissions. Yeah. So they're not selling, they're not making money. And that's a constant discussion. Is like, because you've got good salespeople, you don't want them to leave. You don't want them to move to another builder or to another market or to another opportunity. Now you've spent money training them. You want them there. You want them there to put bread on their table. So understanding your product, addressing your product, adjusting pricing, partnering with trade partners and developer partners for rebates on a lot of inventory, whatever it is. to try and keep that whole cycle moving, not just salespeople, but the trade base and all the team that you put together that allows you to produce your product. That's what it comes down to. So that's where some of the panic in the market comes from. You spend all this money and invest in building teams, and I'm talking teams right all the way through.
Yeah.
And a market like this, and it can easily go away, and then you got to start over again often. But that is our industry.
It really is.
It is our industry. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're starting a new. Are you starting a residential kind of construction division from scratch now? Is that?
Yeah. It is 100% a new entity, and it'll be a separate entity as part of the Ronmore group of companies called that. That's not the term the name, but that's the Ronmore group. Yeah.
How did this opportunity present itself, and like, what excites you about this new opportunity, and what's scary about it?
Well, it came up through. I mean, Ronmore is a company that's been around in the city of Calgary in Western Canada for years, 50, 60 years into the fourth generation. So over the years, they've land banked, and they've got a lot of land around the city of Calgary. A lot of that is commercial, is industrial, and there's also residential potential. It's already being developed in some cases. So there's a lot of organizations that are researching and diving into the vertical game. Many of our builders are developers, and vice versa. Developers are builders. So we see that, and so it's really along those lines of wanting to take advantage of the opportunity and maximize your ability to profit, right?
Yeah.
And it's an exciting challenge. This organization has built all kinds of businesses around, and this is another challenge, and it's an exciting new thing in the organization. So I had the opportunity through a series of conversations, and I was lucky enough to sit at the table with the family and come to and trick them into hiring me. But it was good, really great conversation, and it's exciting because it's just from scratch. It's something I have done some smaller startups, and I've enjoyed that, going through the process of getting a builder license and developing a brand and a name, and going through that whole process of establishing a DNA and a culture from start, and then sort of eyeing some key people that I'd like to be a part of the organization going forward, and the vision is to grow it and to be a competitor and a player in the permit game in Calgary as quickly as we can through establishing new relationships, building on the land that's there, and building on the relationships that are already in place. Yeah, so it's exciting. Daunting? Yeah, daunting. I mean, always the question is, what if it doesn't go well? What kind of market are we in? But I mean, those are just things we need to push through and have a plan and a longer vision in place that we can stick to put it together and make it happen. I'm confident we will.
I'm confident you will too. I think seeing from I'm learning a lot more about just the building industry in general, but seeing how integrated the developer builder, how critical it is. And I feel like Mattamy for me was the first one that I became aware of that when they came from Ontario and came to Canada, or came to Calgary.
Yeah.
And just bought up huge swath of land and then built houses on it.
Yeah.
Because we were used to working with Albi at that that time predominantly, and they were a builder, not a developer. And then Qualico at the same time, they had all their builders, and you can see in 2008 how critical that became to have a developer part, to have that vertical integration, not just from a profitability standpoint, but from an ability to build houses. Because in 2008, some of the developers consolidated, Qualico, and went, only Qualico builders in this area.
Yeah.
And so if you didn't have a builder relationship or a developer relationship, from a builder side, you couldn't build houses. And as a trade side, if we were partnered with someone who couldn't get land, we didn't have work.
Yeah.
And that was a big eye opener for me.
Yeah.
And something on our end, to a certain degree, when we select who to work for, it is looking at what is their land position like?
Sure.
If this turns down and they consolidate, are we protected?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's where relationship comes in play. So it goes beyond, what we did today.
Yeah.
It's about ongoing relationships and establishing that. I mean, there's trades that I've worked with since day one that I came to Calgary just because of meeting them and having a good relationship with them in 1997. I still work with some of those trades today and will continue to do so. So it ebbs and flows, of course, but you have your trusted trade partners that you go back to and vice versa. So I would certainly expect to be able to, you've got land, so you've got a ticket to play in the game.
Yeah.
And now it's about putting together the right plan and the right team to make it happen. But you're right. Understanding that land bank is important, and then also back to capacity from the builder side is understanding the capacity and the ability to scale up of trade partners. So it goes both ways too. So your commodity is skilled labor, right?
I think that's something. It's taken me like probably longer than it should have, but to really understand what is the value that from a Wiehler mechanical perspective that Wiehler brings.
Yeah.
And it is like having good people.
Yeah.
That's basically it.
Yeah.
Right. Like having good people the day that our client needs them.
Yeah. Right.
And it in many ways it is measured in days, because I think another aspect that people who are not in the residential trade perspective, I don't think people realize how challenging it is to have your productivity measured in hours. Like if you don't show up to work today, it's probably fine, right? You're probably not going to get yelled at. No one's going to be threatening hack charges. But if you're if you're doing groundworks as a plumber, as an example, or gas lines, where the expectation's 2 a day, and you take a day off, that is 2 groundworks that don't get done,
right? And
that's 2 boxes that don't get checked off on the schedule. It's delays, like the gravel days, the inspection, like that is a it's a multi-day impact, especially if inspections are backed up.
Yeah.
And then just to try to see the impact that has on the organizations in general, and then for us to understand, like, well, how often do we have someone calling sick? Is it reasonable to book a schedule 100%?
Oh yeah.
Do you want some flexibility inside your schedule? How often does somebody call? And starting to look at, like, really, that's the value then, that as a larger trade company, that's what you're bringing, is that ability to navigate someone called in sick.
Yeah.
It's not always easy.
Yeah.
But I know on our service division, I was most proud of, we stopped booking a full day for Mondays for our service staff.
Oh yeah.
And we would, when out of 8 staff, we would book 6 of them and on Friday, if the schedule was booked for 6 people, that was a win. Any more, and we knew we were going to have problems on Monday, because invariably something went wrong on Friday or somebody called sick on Monday. We never know who was calling in sick, but somebody was.
So you still had the capacity based on.
And so as opposed to somebody calling in sick and then having this mad scramble in the office, well, what do we do? And starting to call clients and starting to disappoint people, it was somebody called in sick. Okay. And just move one of the guys who was floating into that role. And the amount of stress that took off the organization was unbelievable.
Right.
And that was one of those wins that I felt like, man, I actually did good work today.
Yeah.
So I don't often get wins, I find, in my role. But man, when they come, holy crap, you can feel good.
So that's a good comment, just around recognizing. It's one thing to think, okay, I got 10 guys, I can do 10 calls in the morning and 10 in the afternoon. So I'm booking it out.
Yep.
Man, I'm going to be good. And then you get a hiccup like that and you're behind and people are mad. But so building that room, it's a contingency plan is what it is.
It's contingency. And then really being a steward of your business. I find that one area in construction that I find that we are not good stewards of is understanding the time impact on weather. Like when it's minus 25 or minus 30 and you get calls from builders or supervisors like, well, why aren't you done?
Yeah.
What? Why are you asking me that?
Yeah.
It's minus 25, man.
Right.
Our glue doesn't set.
Yeah.
I didn't invent this.
Yeah.
Right. But it's interesting to see, well, you got to make the time out. And I can understand that it's like from construction standpoint, it's important. But also there's the reality side. Like we build these houses outdoors.
Yeah. Well, so then it comes down to the builder's building contingency, like understanding contingency.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be full out at certain times, but you can't be full out all the time.
And I find that's one area where I definitely feel the trade partnership, when you can just have the open conversation.
Yeah.
About, hey, like it's going to be minus 25 this week.
Yeah.
That's your expectation. And for me, logically is we're going to push the schedule a week because it's minus 25. If you can get something done, great.
Yeah.
And if you can't, we understand.
Yeah.
And that's helpful. And then it's easier for us to go back to our guys and go, hey, if you don't want to work, you don't have to. And if you want to, we'll try to make it as best as we can.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Which is, it's a challenge. At that temperature, it's a challenge.
Yeah, sure it is. Fast. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, people don't move fast, and nobody moves fast. No. Nobody can get to work.
No.
So
but yeah, it's tough to get to work. Like the batteries don't charge. I think some people don't really understand is like, nobody knows more about batteries, I feel like, than trades working in wintertime.
Yeah,
Right? And you'll watch, like, the guys have their heaters, and where are their heaters pointed?
yeah, at their batteries.
At their batteries.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah.
Right? And it's
Yeah.
like, and they're almost less concerned with their tools and anything else they have, but if their batteries don't work, then they can't work.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to this mentality of, well, if they can't work, they don't get paid.
Yeah.
If it's too cold, they just don't get paid for that day. And I think it's, we had, in one of our episodes, had interviewed a guy who does subcontract HVAC work.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and in the residential business, for sure, a lot of the trades who are on site, they're subcontractors.
Yeah.
Which are individuals working for larger companies. We started talking about ramps during wintertime.
Okay.
Right? So what do you do when you come across a ramp and it's unsafe? Right? Like, it's icy. It's like, like, this site's just a mess because it was a huge dump of snow and it's icy. Like, what do you do? And he's like, I work. So you willingly go across these unsafe ramps?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah. Well, why? Well, John, if I say no, which I'm supposed to do, because I just don't get paid for that day.
Yeah.
And so I can't afford not to work. So I have to work.
Mm-hmm.
It was just so disheartening to hear that put so bluntly.
Yeah, I mean, but that's also the initiative that's required in our industry to be successful too. You just got to make things happen sometimes.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean you have to do it unsafe, but you got to take the steps to allow yourself to work. I mean, guys that are working hourly, especially when it's cold, probably means it's getting close to Christmas.
Yeah.
Right? They need to work when they're doing hourly or doing piecework. They need to work.
They need to work.
Yeah.
And I think that's the interesting part. And then it goes into like managing through recessions and peaks and valleys and just helping. Like, hey man, like when the sun's shining, like you need like work.
Yeah.
Like, if they sold 55 houses, go do 55 houses.
There you go.
Because you never know. Like when it could be 12 next week.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so on that note, would you rather build, so like the road that you're on right now, would you rather build your company during a boom time where sales are easy, or would you rather build where like things are steady, but let's say on the slower side of steady?
Well, okay. So I good question. I think that it depends on what your plan is. From ability to build trade partner base and find really great people to be a part of your organization, it's probably better when it's slower. There's people out there looking for work, and you can start to establish those relationships and set your input costs a little more efficiently, to call it, and be selective and find the right trade base so that you can accomplish what you want. That's the first thought. Going doing the opposite, like say 2 years ago, when everybody's going down the hole, well, why do they want to come work for a new builder? Right now, they're quite happy, they're flush, and even good people are all tied up. So, from that perspective, I would say in a slower time, which we are right now. So there's opportunities to find the right people and the right trade partners.
Because I agree with you. I think that's one aspect that I really enjoy about a little bit of a slowdown, is that ability to refine, to refine specs, to refine efficiencies, to find like value engineering for builders.
Yeah.
And then just to like refine process, and almost that like stepper model that you allude to is, we're going to build 200 houses. Let's find the value in the 200.
Yeah.
Right? Like, hey, we're not going to build, 1,000 houses this year or do plumbing there. We're going to build 800, but let's do 800 real well.
Yeah.
And it's almost more fun as a leader, because I feel like when it's super busy, I feel out of control.
Yes. 100%. Plus you can do it with a team. So, if you're saying we want to be 200 or 250, whatever the number is in terms of homes, and we want to do it again next year, well, you're not necessarily having to go rehire a bunch of guys to get you to that next level of growth, because growth for us means more efficient. So it's the same team that's constantly focused. So you got some consistency in your leadership and you're learning together. I found that with our team of leaders at Stepper at that time. Whereas if we're growing in a boom time, we want to go from 2 to 400. Well, you're bringing new people on and training new people, and they're learning the culture and how you do things, and you're learning them, and so that's another challenge all in itself. So being able to be not only efficient in terms of what you're doing in terms of your production, but also honing how you function as a team is really important.
You alluded to earlier is like, as the companies grow, you have access to better capital to be able to do fun group activities.
Yeah.
Like, and more group time together. What are some of the best values that you see in order to bring groups of people together at Step or at Jayman, right? To kind of to build that team up,
Well, I mean, a lot of companies have social clubs, right?
Yep.
Of course. And those are always good things for a good portion of the staff. Not everybody is attending because, quite frankly, not everybody wants to be social with their coworkers, right?
Yep.
They just, they're fine to go to work, and then I don't need to go bowling with you on Thursday night. I can hang out with my kids. So there's those sort of things. And then, I mean, the obvious things of, just hanging out, having a common area for easy lunch for lunchtime. Encouraging people not to sit at their desk to have lunch, but to come out and just have a bite and a quick chat. Some of those more informal things I think are good. Organization I was last with did a really great job of organizing big events like ski days and golf days. And that was always an annual thing that people look forward to. And there was a lot of participation in. And then also there's some of the required things. So you're required to attend the quarterly town halls, for example, and you bring everybody together and you make it a good time where it's enjoyable, informative, and people are there because they have to be. It's mandatory to attend, but it's an enjoyable event and break from the day. I think those town halls were really very valuable, actually.
In what way? How do you see the most value of those town halls?
Well, for one, it's your way to communicate. It's a message that we talked about. What's going on, what's coming, celebrate some of the wins from the past, recognize people, break bread together, usually have some food and whatever, and make it a fun environment so people enjoy being there and realize that they're part of a good thing. I think those all add up to an enjoyable time and like a valuable culture building time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be the opposite. If you're grumpy and yelling at everybody, that's not good, but right.
How do you make sure that you don't show up grumpy and yelling at people? Do you ever have that desire they have to suppress, or is leading from a place of gratitude come naturally for you?
I'm not a big yeller. Grumpy, I can be grumpy, but I think just being focused on what you're doing. I mean, you've got a lot of people depending on you to support them in what they're doing and mentor them, lead alongside them, a common goal, common vision. So to come in grumpy and with an attitude that is negative really deters from that overall vision and slows you down. So the motivation to keep doing things well, I think, and to ensure that the team feels like they can do well.
How do you deal with it when you find guys like like supervisors or other people within the industry who they do come in hot, like they either gravitate to yelling or blame? How do you handle that within like the companies you've run?
So those that report to me or would report to me, well, it's not an acceptable environment. It's not the environment that we want. And the hiring process is so important. And when you have an opportunity to walk through, okay, they've got the skills. Are they a culture fit? It's such a big question that needs to be answered and sometimes ignored. And do they fit with the culture and the leadership style? So that we have consistency. Not you all have to be the same, but you have to have I think having a consistent understanding of leadership style so that, so if you're in an environment where people are hot, well, yes, then it's not that big a deal. But an environment where you don't want that, and it doesn't mean you don't want to toe the line and make sure we're fully being paying attention to what we're supposed to do and do it well. That doesn't mean that. It means that we are leading in a way that's collaborative and encouraging so that there's some not only growth for your company, but personal growth.
What are some red flags that you see through that hiring process when you're looking for culture, for your cultural fit? What are some stuff that you have experienced where you're like, you know what, you check the boxes, but I don't think they're a cultural fit?
Just the way the conversation goes. I mean, yes, we ask the same questions often. I always like to find out what they know about the company. Did they do some research into it? Do they know? And that actually is a real telltale question and very common. I'm sure everybody asks that. But what do you know about the company that you're applying to? Have you been on the website? Do you know anything about who we are and what we do and how we do it and what the history is? And that's a big piece. Tells you that they want to know about. It's not just that we're just not paycheck. That's a big piece. And having a conversation that goes to their out of work life. I won't call it family life because not everybody has a family, but their extracurricular activities. What are they into? That kind of thing. Yeah.
When you're asking about the extracurricular activities, is it just like to see if they have any, or is there like, are there specific ones that you look for?
Well, in leadership positions, you look. I often look for what they've done in their, call it maybe their athletic life or their pursuit of education, or volunteer work that they do in the resume. Some things that shows that they're stepping outside of their normal day to day, and they're taking extra effort to be involved in things, whether it's in the community or in whatever it might be. A level of interest that they pursue that shows initiative. Those are real telltale pieces in a person's resume or the discussion. And and they've had some success in their education or athletics or community involvement or whatever it is, or their family, then that shows there's some drive there. And that's can be very indicative of who they are and what kind of a culture fit they'll be.
That's the good word, right? It shows drive.
Mm-hmm.
And when trying to find managers and leaders, that drive is pretty important.
It's huge. Yeah, absolutely it is. And you want it to be something that motivates the people they lead and encourages them to do the same.
Because can you then tell, so someone who, let's say, they're applying for like management leadership role, they don't have the experience in the role yet, but they've got experience volunteering or they're doing extracurricular stuff outside that kind of indicates they have drive.
Yeah.
You look at that and go, that's a positive indication this person's going to be an effective leader.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, there's other factors. Do they have any skill set, right? Yeah. There's all of that. And there's times when we've taken a flyer on people just because of that drive. And that works sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, it depends on when you give them that opportunity, they've got to take it and run with it. So
is that, I want to get into the Canadian mentorship network. It looks like you started it.
I did, yeah. I started it in about 5 years ago, and it's still there. It still has some success stories. Yeah. I haven't been as active in it for the last number of years for various reasons I won't get into. But I've always felt that I was a recipient of good mentors, whether it was specific or not.
Yeah.
And in organizations where I was involved, and I helped to set up mentorship systems. So, you put people together and say, you know what, this guy wants to pursue this type of career. You've had some success in it. Why don't you guys meet monthly? And I took a group through a group of leaders in the one company, took them through a small mentorship leadership, like how to be a mentor book.
Yeah. And
then I had, people, the younger guys or whatever, girls, sign up to be a mentor and then match them. And so we did a little bit mentorship training and then matched them. And for a while there, I was consulting and I was working with a couple other small home builders in various things, and just decided I'd start this Canadian mentorship group and start connecting people. And we had times we had people from mentors and mentees from across Canada that I'd connect them to meet. They meet on Teams. We had actual meetings, where everybody that was involved was on, and I had some special speakers to talk about mentorship. And our first speaker and guest speaker was Preston Manning, and I had him come on and talk about political mentorship and just mentorship in general. It was funny. A friend of mine had mentioned that he had his cell phone number, so I just called him out of the blue, and his wife answered. You could hear that they were having tea, and then Preston Manning with his very unique voice gets on, and I started chatting with him. I said, "This is what I'm doing." He says, "Well, sure, I'd be involved." And so he came and spoke, and so it was good. And there are some people that are still meeting as a result of that initiative, and I thought maybe I should start the ball rolling. Still a presence on LinkedIn and in a few other places, but just something I've had a passion for in mentorship and having been mentored myself by some really great people over the years.
Yeah, because that's what really strikes me is I can hear the overtone of mentorship throughout your entire career, right? Mm-hmm. People taking like the initiative to train, to teach, to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
And then what I also see too is your willingness to take the information and seemingly just run with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You don't strike me as the type of person who needs to be told twice.
Well, it depends what you're telling me. Yeah. Yeah.
And I find too that it's like it can be a very powerful tool to have a structured mentor, structured
Yeah.
friend, structured buddy, especially for people who are going through like high growth or like in roles for the first time or struggling the roles. If it's part of their desire, but they don't yet have the core competencies.
Yeah. Yeah. No, very much so. I had a call from a young engineer, young, 30 something engineer, who's in the business world. He's a business consultant, but he's an engineer. And he works downtown, and he wanted to talk about the home building industry and some questions around that. And so I met with him about, say, 2 months ago downtown. We had a great coffee. He's really very intellectual guy that not everybody just reaches out and wants to be mentored or have a chat with somebody. So he had a self-starter and had a level of success in his career already. Anyway, so we had a great conversation and some follow-up. My youngest son is in engineering right now, just finishing his last, actually, I think he's got 2 more classes.
Oh, wow.
And so I went back to this guy and I said, hey, do you mind meeting with my son? And because my son also will be an engineer, but also has a real interest in business. And so that guy reached out to my son and they met for a couple hours last week, and they're going to have a follow-up. And he followed through with the information that they had shared and gave him this great email of all kinds of thoughts and suggestions that would help my son Max move forward in his career as he graduates. So I think it's a real reciprocal opportunity of being a mentor and being mentored. It's a way to pass it on, right?
What do you see in people, and I get like, who seek out like, or like, how do my staff know like that I would benefit from mentorship, and how do I find like, what do I look for in a mentor?
Well, you got your dad for one.
Yeah.
It was a great example of a mentor, but you also, I mean, what do you look for? What are you interested in? Like, who do you see out there that's doing something that you want to do when you're 20 years older, or has done something that you'd like to do? You know, reach out to that person, and if there's someone you respect, watch them and then call them. Or be a part of an organization that'll set you up.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I think that's what it comes down to. And see, mentorship is a bit of a buzzword over the last number of years, I've noticed. You see different organizations talking about mentorship, and there's other mentorship organizations. And so I think people realize the value of it more and more. I just don't know how. One of the things I heard mostly when I talk to people is I'd like a mentor. I just have no idea how to find one. Or I'd like to be a mentor. I have no idea how to be one. And so that was the whole idea of this. And so those mentors that we connected with that wanted to be mentors, we had some literature to help them mentor. And we had structure for their meetings. And then we had structure for the mentees to understand what to ask, just to get that ball rolling. Once the ball was rolling, then they did those things on their own. But people don't feel confident a lot of guys don't feel confident they could be a mentor, right?
I think it feeds right back into like the classic like imposter syndrome.
Yeah,
right. That's like when you look at the guy who's like 20 years older, but hey, like, how did you do it? And the guy's like, man, like,
yeah,
I just did it.
That's exactly right. You're like, yeah. I mean, and plus you're a person that you know, has good times and bad times, ups and downs, and you might tend to focus on your downs and not feel that you're in any shape to be mentoring. When really working through the downs is part of what makes you a successful mentor. When you can share those down times and your mistakes and how you work through that. Actually, what that does is that encourages the mentee. Oh, I can make mistakes too and be successful.
I think about like when I go back to and you say, John, you had your dad.
Yeah.
I look back at some of the, like, just driving around with him and going to accounting meetings, and man, his willingness to share his mistakes.
Yeah.
Still to this day. Like,
yeah.
I am so grateful for, because he made tons of mistakes, and he would just tell me about them, like the personal costs of the mistakes, the financial costs of the mistakes.
Yeah.
Sitting down at people's tables right after we flood a house. Like, they're not great experiences to go through, but man, like to be able to sit at a table at 13 years old or 14 years old and just watch that conversation take place is such a tremendous gift.
Yeah, it is. I remember in some cases sitting down with someone I thought was going to be a mentor, and they were, but maybe not quite the way I'd expected. and they rattled off all their successes to me. And I felt to myself, oh, geez, I don't think I can ever do that. I did not find it encouraging. Found it inspiring to see what he'd done, but I'm like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. But you can bet that within all those successes, there was all kinds of things that went wrong and mistakes they made or whatever, or even personal mistakes. The thing, how you act as a person, and when you hear those stories and then how the person's worked through it, it's humbling, it's encouraging, and it lets you know that you can be successful despite your own mistakes. Yeah.
Are there any particular, like, on the topic of mistakes, is there certain like refining moments in your career where you've looked back and go, you know what, like that mistake, shit, like you made me successful in the future. It sucked at the time, but that was really great to experience.
Great to experience. What first thing that comes to mind actually isn't really that big a deal, but it was actually, I guess it was at the time, helped me know where I was. So it wasn't long after I started Stepper as a site soup. And things were different in the Lower Mainland than they were here. For example, when you backfill a basement in the Lower Mainland, the excavator does all the services.
Okay. Okay.
So you can guess where this is going. So I got 6 basements to backfill in Rocky Ridge. Called the excavator back. I mean, the guy shouldn't have backfilled knowing the services were in. Backfilled all these 6 basements. And then I remember going in and my boss at the time and Harry Stepper, hope he doesn't mind me mentioning his name. I remember the cursing, like behind my back, maybe not cursing, but like, are you kidding me? Like, what kind of dummy did we hire here? But the reality it was like, okay, so let's go re-excavate and redo it. And so I found myself in an environment where, okay, I can make mistakes. I don't want to make mistakes because it pissed them off and it cost money. But at least it was in an environment where if I did make mistakes, I knew I could work my way through it and was in an environment that was productive. Maybe it's right. And open to learning. Thank God. Because that would have been something the guys would get fired for right away. Backfilling 6 basements without, who did we just hire here?
And I think like it's a great perspective because I think whatever environment we grow up in, right, especially when it comes to learning, making mistakes like that, like seeing the significant cost and how your boss, how your manager who like reacts to that, gives you a really good indication of like where's the guardrails in this relationship, and being able to understand that there is a cost, being exposed to the cost, and then also not getting fired. And I've always liked the perspective that like that's just paid learning. And
well, it's exactly.
We had a guy, and this one really sticks out with me, is he missed a crimp. Flooded a house.
Oh, yeah.
It was a horrible experience. I was there with my dad, my brother, and myself with our shirts off, mopping up a floor. Like
a brand new house?
Or? Oh, yeah, brand new house. Like the woman had just moved in, like in days. Multi-million-dollar renovation. And a few memories from that one, but one of them was her rightfully upset. Like, but she's like, hey, you got to take some accountability. How could this happen? But under a moment of poise, respectfully, I just tried to tell her, I was like, listen, like, I am here with my dad and my brother. We're mopping your floor up. I don't know what else accountability looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we'll diagnose the problem later. We'll get into the why later. So that was helpful and then to see her just take a step back and be disappointed, but to stop amping the situation up, which was helpful. And then the next thing that came out of that is that one of my guys who missed the crimp offered to quit.
Oh, yeah.
And I really appreciated that. And I said, like, man, like, I'm just about to spend like $25,000 on your education. Like, are you going to do this again? He's like, no, never. Like, well, yeah. So if you quit, then you're going to make some other company $25,000 better.
Yeah, there you go.
That really bugs me.
Good point. Yeah.
And he has gone on to run one of my divisions now. Wow. That was 8 years ago.
Huh.
And
that's a good story.
The client has probably gone on to spend, $50,000 to $100,000 with us since then.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to see that moment was trust building for many different people in that environment. It was trust building from our client, like the home builder. It was trust building for their client.
Yeah.
Because she could see how we react when we make mistakes. And I think too often to your point about mentorship, is people think that these relationships are about doing things right. And really, my experience, the relationships are about what happens when you do something wrong. Anybody can do the plumbing well in a house.
That's a good point.
A couple times.
Yeah.
At some point over a long enough relationship, we're going to screw something up.
Yeah.
Our goal is not to screw it up, but we have human beings who work. We crimp probably 1 million plus joints a year. If 3 of them leak, from a failure rate perspective, it's well in the reason of anybody's failure rate.
Yeah.
But for 3 people, it's an epic failure. And there's a question of why in their house, and there's no good answer.
Yeah.
I've never stood in front of somebody with a dropped ceiling, right? With their floor wrecked, with and when they stand in front of cabinets wrecked, like the intensity's high, and the question is, why did this happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
This shouldn't have happened to you.
Yeah, I've been in that situation exactly.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah,
and then really to own the moment, to be able to provide that comfort, even though there's a mistake, to be accountable for the work, to be accountable for the relationship, and then to truly go back to the systems and find out, well, what do we do that increases the likelihood that this can happen again? What can we do that decreases the likelihood?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big believer that we cannot eliminate the chance of a water leak. In the truest sense, I just don't think it's possible.
Right.
But
you're reacting.
Man, we can, if we can drop that from, let's say, from 10 to 6, from 6 to 4,
right?
Like from 4 to 2, right? Yeah. And then maybe we go a whole year without ever having water leak.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I think people really don't understand the construction business, how many different locations water can come from.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm still learning that.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's learning, right?
Yeah.
Always learning. Yeah.
So, as we come towards an end, do you have any questions for me or anything on that? Anything that's come up?
Well, I got one question that's maybe a little off topic, and it comes down to your business as a family-owned business, succession planning and whatnot. You talked a little bit about that in your interview that you did with your dad. I've worked in family organizations all my life, right from the start. First one was my brother's, and there's always been, when it gets into the generations, the succession planning is a challenge. It's something that often gets left behind, and I just wonder how you guys are handling that, because that's you got your son coming up. You mentioned that, and you have your brother working in the business. And I don't know if that's a topic for this discussion, but it certainly is something that's on my mind.
Well, I think it's a great question. One, I've been very fortunate. So I'm in a tech group, so the executive committee, and we've had a couple of guest speakers come in and talk about succession planning.
Yeah.
And so the way that my dad and I handled it, or my dad handled it, is when I was 14, he asked me whether or not I was serious about taking the company over or not.
When you were 14?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I probably said, "Yeah, Dad, I'm super interested."
Yeah. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
And that was important because his goal at the time was to make the company affordable for me to be able to take it over at that appropriate time. So and then to do it in a manner that limited his tax liability. Right? He had a bunch of retained earnings, and he wanted to not have to take them out in one tax year, but to do it, maybe $100,000 at a time, over a certain period of time. So there was a good reason for him to ask it, and there was a plan in place for him.
Well, there you go. That's interesting.
Now, I think with the benefit of hindsight, I think too often family businesses look at the next generation as succession planning, because what the transition looked like for Wiehler was in 2010. We had just not been successful in a tender with Albee Homes.
Mm-hmm.
My dad had worked for Albee for 32 years.
Oh.
Right? Been through multiple boom bust cycles. And that was, it was very painful, to our family.
Okay.
Because that was
a long-standing relationship.
That was a very long-standing relationship that was ended by people who weren't there through any of it.
Yeah.
Right? And within a kind of a months of that, my dad basically just said, "You know what, John, if you want this fucking company, you can have it."
Yeah. Wow.
And by that point, so I would have been 25 years old at the time. And we were down to one person in our office. And that was a good exit strategy for him. And I'm proud of my dad, because he then went very much like, "This is yours. You can run with it. I will support you, but I'm not gonna interfere."
Right.
Now, when I look at myself, and my son's 8, so, but I don't look at him with that same lens. I want him to take the company over. And we had a guest speaker come in, and what they really talked about is making sure that on a generational plan, that next generation is buying in properly, that they're aware of the risk that they're taking, that there's a strong sense of like, what are they getting into? Because I think too often within family planning, it's framed as a gift.
I see.
I'm giving you this company. You should be grateful to me.
Right.
But maybe some people are cut out for it, and maybe some aren't.
Yeah.
I was cut out for it. Like I'm in the job that I'm good at it. I like it. It's fun. But in the other sense, my brother, if the roles were reversed and it was my brother, it's not his jam. This is not what he wants to do, right? From that perspective. And it would have had, I'm not going to say a disastrous effect, but it would have been a very different outcome.
I see.
And so I think being able to, and then in hindsight, maybe my dad should not have given me a lifetime loan that I could pay back whenever I wanted. I took the company over and I didn't pay him any money for that at the time. And it was just agreed that I would give him $200,000 back at some point. And I can see that for certain people, that can end up being a trap because it looks like a free gift.
I see.
And it is not a gift.
Right.
It is a job, and it's a high stress job.
Yeah.
And then to saddle somebody in their early 20s with that, I don't know if that's fair. And I would really advise people who are looking at that next generation to really help their children understand that significance.
Interesting.
Make them take money out. Go to a bank, have the bank explain to them this is a loan, make them sign personal guarantees.
Yeah.
And then what you do in the background with your money, I think, is like, if we did that with my kids, what I do with the money that they pay me to buy out my shares is my business. But to give them everything and then just to go, hey, I'll over time pay it back, I think has the potential of setting people up for failure. That's my
interesting. Cool. So there's a plan. You worked through it. Your dad had a plan, obviously.
Yeah.
And you're working on what your plan's going to look like. Yeah.
I think for me in general, I've done a really good job of compartmentalizing. Like, what is my job within Wiehler? And what is my job? Like, what is like as a CEO, what is my job? As a shareholder, what's my job?
Yeah.
And then a big focus for me for many years has been run Wiehler, run the company as though I can sell it to somebody. What does somebody look for who would buy my company?
Of course, yeah.
And then at that point, it makes it easier and less pressure on that next generation where there is no pressure.
Yeah.
And I think really being able to articulate, and you mentioned off camera, that importance of like when you're running a business, you're on a board of directors, like your nose is in the business, but your fingers are out.
Yeah.
And I think being able to structure any company so that my child does not look or does not feel like he has to take the business over to save me.
Yeah.
And I think that's
or to make you happy.
Or to make me happy.
Yeah.
I think really detaching like any obligation out of that transaction, really freeing them up that it is his choice, regardless of which one of the three sons I have. If they wanted to do it, it is ultimately their choice. There is no obligation.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's very liberating for someone to come into an organization like that.
It's a great answer.
I was different.
Yeah.
And I think most people are not like me.
Well, you made a go of it.
That made a go of it.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Great.
Dave, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it coming in.
Awesome.
This time has been excellent.
Yeah. Thanks.
Much, man.
Thanks for listening to the People Built podcast with John Wiehler. For more episodes, visit peoplebuilt.ca.